Shalom, truth seekers. I'm just really excited to make this video tonight. An idea recently occurred to me for confirming the Equinox event, and up to this point, if you've seen any of my other sundial videos talking about the Equinox, you'll hear me express concern about different sundial methods that are being used, and I just wonder if these different sundial methods are possibly just observing different phenomenon, and they see these phenomenons on different days based on different latitudes. But if you check out some of my other videos, you'll see I think I have a video about the equinox, how to confirm the equinox with stellarium, and how to confirm the equinox with timeanddate.com. And I mean, essentially, in a nutshell, there's something called the Celestial Equator, and you know, it's a line right above the equator. It's in the middle of the heavens. It's like the middle portal between the third and fourth portal. If you're familiar with Enoch, it's the Celestial Equator, and what we're looking for, the equator is the line directly between the celestial poles, which means it's also the line directly between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And the sun bounces between the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer. Over the course of the year, gradually it kind of moves in that north-south direction between these two tropics to give us the tropical year. And every day there's a little bit of north and south movement, and it goes between these tropics, and right in the middle of these tropics is the Celestial Equator. And it's when the sun not crosses, but it's when the sun is bisected by the Celestial Equator. Like, the Celestial Equator runs right through the middle of the sun, is, I believe, the timing of the equinox event. That's kind of how Time and Date sort of describes it. I mean, they explain that things are a little off because they're actually measuring from when the edge of the sun is touching the Celestial Equator. But anyway, I have another video called something to the effect of looking for the leader stars that they came out with in the past few months, and you can get more information about that in these videos. But the thing is, the sun at some point crosses the Celestial Equator, and you can see that really accurately in stellarium. Like, you can run through stellarium and you can see the exact moment when it crosses. So this is the Celestial Equator, and you can see it has 0 degrees here. So 0 degrees is right on the Celestial Equator. And so in stellarium, it gives you the coordinate, and you know exactly when in stellarium's programming the sun is like crossing, or like right dead center, bisected on the Celestial Equator. So I got to thinking, and with all these sundial methods, another idea came to me, and that was, because the stars are like a grid map of the sky. Like, you have the perfect reference points in the heavens if you are familiar with the stars. Like, if you're familiar with the stars and the moon is in the sky with the stars, you can tell where the moon is with proximity to that Celestial Equator. Likewise, if the sun were had a background of these stars, you could also tell where it was with proximity to the Celestial Equator. And so the thing is, the thing that I thought about is, I was thinking, I wonder if I can take a picture of the stars and make myself like a mount for my camera that I can just kind of pop the camera in and out of, a very rigid mount for my camera. So all I have to do is kind of like plop it in place and hold it down tight and snap a picture, and it will take a picture of the same patch of sky. And if I could do that at night and take a picture of the stars, then the following day, when the sun comes into that patch of sky, I could snap another picture and then because the camera was in the exact same position and the exact same orientation and the exact same zoom, I could simply overlay those two photos in Photoshop, the picture of the sun and the picture of the stars, because the reference points that they have in common would simply be the edges of the pictures. So I could overlay those exactly in Stellarium, and then I could start to make one of the pictures slightly transparent, probably the sun, so I could see the stars through the sun picture, and then because they were stacked, I could see exactly where the sun was with proximity to the stars, the grid line. So Stellarium is nice. It has these grid lines that show you exactly where the celestial equator was. So like I said, I recently did a video that was titled something about what are the leader stars, and I was looking for stars that are kind of very close to either the Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn and the celestial equator that could potentially help to identify the sun's location on these seasonal days. And I just if you watch that video, you'll see I kind of zeroed in on this the rightmost star in Orion's Belt. It is a very bright star, and it is very close to the celestial equator. It's like right on top, almost on top of the celestial equator. And just so you know, I'm not crazy, you know, you can Google it and you'll see here, you know, the rightmost star in Orion's Belt happens to lie almost exactly on the celestial equator. So, another thing you need to know about the stars is the stars, unlike the sun and the moon, do not move north and south. Well, according to Stellarium's programming, I think they will in like hundreds of thousands of years or something, but from year to year they typically do not have any north-south movement. So what that means is if you have a reference point like Orion's Belt, you will see that star. It will always be this close to the celestial equator, so as it rotates through the sky, it will ride the celestial equator at every single point you see it in the sky. So if I were to take a picture of the stars when Orion was over here, and then take another picture without moving my camera, like an hour later when Orion was here, and take another picture when Orion was here, I would have these points that I could then plot this line, and I could tell kind of where the celestial equator was. In addition, the sun is going to be moving with proximity to the celestial equator, I think about, if you check one of my past two videos, you'll see an anemala or something. I forget what they call those, but I mean you can see how much the sun moves like from day to day. And anyway, around the time of an equinox, the sun's north to south movement is progressing almost a diameter a day. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're watching the sun and overlaying it over this grid, you should be able to see pretty clearly when the sun is going to be bisected by the celestial equator. So I'm really looking forward to trying that, and I got a little excited last night, and you know, I didn't know what to think. I've done a lot with the sun, and I've done some with taking pictures of the moon, and I've found ways to kind of take pictures of the moon at night using different reference points that you can kind of see, like framing up my house and whatnot. But I've never tried to take a picture of the stars, and all I've heard is that you need special cameras to take pictures of the stars, and you just can't take pictures of the stars because everything else is too bright and whatever. But I went out last night and just tried to take some pictures, and again, my target constellation is Orion, because that's the one right next to this star is right next to the celestial equator, so the sun's disk is going to be something like that big. And so I mean, it's going to be easy to see when it reaches that line. And again, I recommend you check out my other video looking for the leader stars that I did in the past couple months, but that shows you how much movement there is. I think I ran the clock. But anyway, so I went out last night and I tried to take some pictures, and I didn't know what to expect, but when I looked at them, I was very pleased to see that I could see the stars. I can even see like what color some of the stars are, I mean, and I didn't need a special camera. I just used the same camera that I use for everything. So at first this was the picture I took, and I was like, oh great, like there's nothing there. And then I started zooming in, and it was like, oh wait a second, there are some spots moving, and wait, those are stars. And it was it was kind of hard to see them at first. I had to clean off my laptop computer screen from dust because these little stars look like little specks of dust on my laptop screen. But anyway, so zooming in, I knew I was looking at Orion, thankfully, so I mean that kind of gave me a starting reference point. But kind of the more you do this, you know, you'll be able to find the stars you're looking for. But anyway, so I kind of knew generally what I was looking at, and so I was able to find Orion's Belt. And so that is this right here. If you can see the red star, this is the bottom, this is the top, or middle, and this is that top bright star. Well, it doesn't look as bright, but it is the third star nonetheless. So then what I was able to do is, just for practice sake, I took it over to Excel, and I have another software called Planetarium where I was able to kind of get this constellation of Orion to drop over the top of this, just to kind of see, to make sure everything was kind of matching up. And to explain what you're looking at, again, this picture is just a close-up of Orion's Belt, and I had to get the orientation right, and this picture I just made transparent and overlaid over the constellation, over the picture I took. And I'm just going to move it out of the way. So this was the original picture. You can see it looks like there's another star right there. But I dropped these 3 dots in over Orion's Belt, so let me see if I grab this brightest one and move it. You can faintly see, you know, maybe, that the star is there. So that's all I did. I overlaid that so that I could overlay the constellation in a match, just so that I could see things and visualize things more clearly. And I found it interesting, there are these 2 stars up here that didn't quite line up, and I think that's because of the software I was using. I think I actually took this screen capture from a different location that's like several hours away from me. So because Planetarium, that software, I wasn't able to find my exact location. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think the orientation of Orion, or the viewing angle or something, might have been a little off, so that's why it's not an exact match. But that's fine. I only overlaid the this constellation so I could kind of just get a general idea and confirm what I was looking at, and it is I can see that it is working out pretty good. So like I said, my plan going forward, we have like a couple weeks before this event, but I'm going to set myself up a stationary mount, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and remember, it's absolutely important that the camera does not move the position, and you guys can do this. I hope other people will do this as well, because I might have cloud cover the days that I try and do it, even though, you know, there seems to be this great new method to try, but, you know, I might be thwarted by cloud, so it's good if other people want to try this, and you can with any old camera. Maybe I actually have a nicer camera in the house that I might try and see if it can do any better, if it has some kind of night setting for taking pictures of the stars. But the plan is to set up a rigid mount, and make it very, very solid and rigid, and just make it so that I can drop the camera right into position. And I'm going to need like two guides to position it, I guess right to left and up and down, and it's probably going to have to be at a slight angle. But once I've got it set, it's going to take a picture of like a patch of sky, and say it's going to take a picture like this big of this patch of sky. So my goal is to take a picture when Orion's over here, and then an hour later when Orion's over here, an hour later when Orion's over here, and an hour later when Orion's over here. And what that'll give me is pretty much the Celestial Equator line. And then so I'll be able to take that into Excel, and I'll just put these, I'll just overlay these pictures in Excel, and I should be able to plot out my my Celestial Equator line. And then, like I said, the next day, because the thing is, the stars, like I said, they do not they do not move north to south, so they will follow these curves. The stars will follow these curves, and they don't move north to south like the sun. So once I get one night of reference data of the stars, that should confirm the position of the celestial equator. Then all I have to do is take pictures of the sun in the sky when it's in this patch of sky and compare to when it crosses that line. And what I want to try and do, and I want to do this for the moon too, because people are talking about the moon aligning with the sun, so I want to see if that happens. But what I want to do is I want to try and take a picture of the sun when it is on the far left of the picture, and then also when it is on the far right of the picture. Same with the moon. That way I can see if it's not just crossing the celestial equator, if it might perhaps actually be riding the celestial equator. But either or, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm really excited to try this method. In addition to the sundial methods, it'll be very interesting to see if we're getting the same results. The only other thing I guess I'll mention is, though this seems like a great idea, there is one more important test all things truth-seeking thing to check, and that is, I mean, I may get good pictures of the sun with proximity to the stars and this theoretical celestial equator, but the next thing to do will be, after I've got these pictures, or maybe before if there's time, verify how exactly they came up with this celestial equator and make sure this quote-unquote celestial equator is actually in the correct location. And again, that should be directly between the north and south celestial poles, and it's also directly between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So it's directly between the two extremes that the sun will hit on the solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year. So those longest and shortest days of the year are divisions of seasons, and then when it crosses this celestial equator right in the middle, right between them, exactly between them, that should be another division of seasons. And again, I think some of this stuff you read in modern science about the seasons not being exactly equal is just because they are making different measurements, either maybe when the sun touches the celestial equator as opposed to when it actually is bisected by the celestial equator, or there's more to it. It could be they're measuring against like side real time, and this moving star is moving target, and I talked about that in other videos. But anyway, that's it for now. I just wanted to share that and encourage people to get out there and experiment with this. This is something everybody can do, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time, and I think it will be fairly accurate in comparison to the other sundial methods that we've seen. Like I had great success with a taller sundial for the past two seasonal events, but it's well, not the past two, but the past two solstice events. The equinox, though, has always been tricky, because a tall sundial isn't much good for an equinox event, because you need flat ground and a lot of it, pretty much in the middle of the desert or the ocean or something to be able to get a big enough straight line, I think, to really have any value there. But like I said, I have concerns, and it's just another method. It's another way to test these things, and I'm looking forward to it, and I recommend people try it. So please let me know if there's any questions, and shalom, and may Allah bless as you continually seek out His truth in love with a pure heart.